And welcome to Co-op Guild. This is Steve, and I'm here with Co-op Chat with two special guests for today. We've got Dani from DaniCha YouTube channel. How's it going, Dani?
Hi, I'm good, Steve. Thanks for having me on.
So happy you're here. And we have Mike for One Stop Co-op Shop. Hey, Mike.
Hey, good to be back.
Yes, yes. So thought we'd have a fun little chat today. This is our weekly, at least it's best we can do weekly, live chat about board game topics, and we try to keep them cooperative focused. So welcome if you're here. So I got a lot to. This should be a fun discussion. I think we got a good mix of people. So I was watching one of Dani's videos that she posted. It was talk about reviews, and I thought she had some really interesting ideas shared in that, and I kind of wanted to delve in that deeper. And so when I think about reviews, I was like, who else would be a really good person to talk about reviews? So of course Mike is here. So thanks, Mike, for taking time out of this.
The
So
expert.
That's
hey,
exciting.
David, welcome. Great crew today. Yes, I'm very excited for this chat. Hey, welcome. Okay, so Dani, why don't you start us off? And so
Sure.
let's talk about these reviews.
Yeah, so reviews are something as like a board gamer that I love to watch. And I would
Mhm.
definitely say Mike is at the top of my list as reviewers. I love his top fives. So it's like I love learning about the games, what's the pros and cons about the game. But honestly, for me personally, I feel a little uncomfortable or inadequate to discuss it. And I find that there's a pretty good analogy in my head about it where it's like, we all drive a car, I think typically, if you don't live in the city. We drive cars almost every single day, but we don't know how to build a car. We don't know like the ins and outs of that car, what makes that car good, right? But you drive it still, right? Because you enjoy it. It feels good. And it keeps you safe. But it's like that's kind of like how I feel about board games. It's like I don't feel like I know the ins and outs of board games enough to have that full thought process of a review. Like I know how it makes me feel. Like I know if I after I play a game, if I enjoy it, if I don't enjoy it. And it's just like it's kind of tricky for me to put on video how I feel about a game. And as a content creator, I want people to be able to like, trust what I'm saying
Hmm.
and know that I believe it. But oftentimes I might like a game, one day, and then the next day I'll play it again and I'll love it. And it's just like, man, if I posted the video of my first impression, I guess, what would people think if I just start, posting about this game that now I love? It might come a little bit like, not genuine. So I always fear like maybe I'm not quite that right person as a board gamer. And I would say I'm a bit of a casual board gamer. Like I really play to have fun and to enjoy my time. And even though it's solo, I mainly play solo board games. That's kind of like my niche. And so it's an interesting content type for me as YouTuber. Like, should I delve into to the reviews? Will people actually care what I'm saying, or will I even like change my mind? So that's really the thing. Because once you put something out on YouTube, I feel like it's kind of there and people will watch it maybe, a week from now, a year from now. And by then my thoughts may have changed.
Yeah,
And I could always create an update video, I guess, and link it in the description.
yeah.
But you guys probably know what I mean.
No, no, I've had similar thoughts as well. Like, and that's where I got into the habit for a while. They're just trying to like, well, I need to play through like the full campaign before I put out my thoughts, right? Because
Yeah.
the first part of the campaign might be awesome, and the later part maybe something like didn't sync with me, or maybe I lost interest, and I want to communicate that. And it's
Yeah.
unfortunately by that time, it might not be as useful to people because there's so many new games coming out, and people tend to respond really quickly to games, and so how do you approach that, right? How do you approach a review and feel confident in the message you're sending out? I don't know, Mike. What do you have thoughts? Do you have thoughts on this? I'm assuming.
Yeah, I have lots of thoughts. But Danny, you brought up a ton of great ideas and kind of points. The first thing I think maybe to discuss is the idea of, like I don't know how to build a car. That analogy
Yeah,
you
yeah,
used, and this is just my opinion, by the way. Of course, everyone's going to have their own opinion on kind of things, but I think anybody who's thinking about reviewing should review if they want to. I mean, the first thing maybe, Danny, is do you care whether other people watch, and is that like
Mm.
the main metric of success. Of course, it's going to be part of a success like equation, right? But
Right.
if if you don't enjoy making the content, I don't think anybody should be making content, because none of us, unless we're maybe like Dice Tower, shut up and sit down, none of us are making like the money that is going to make this worthwhile, even if it's drudgery every day and we hate every minute of it. And even I don't think they'd be doing it if they didn't love it too. But in terms of like whether your voice is valuable, there's kind of two things I think every reviewer has going for them. And that's both that you are a unique person.
Mm-hmm.
So no one's going to experience games quite the same way you do. No one's going to have the exact same things about them. You're going to have your own unique experience with them. And some things are going to be lovely for you, and some things are going to jump out stronger than others. And the only person who can speak to that is you, right? You're the only one who has that decision. But also, lots of people are similar to you. And I think any level of game experience, any level of kind of expertise is valuable as a voice that could compare to people watching. So like take me for a second. I've been playing board games and card games since I was like 5 or 6 years old, and I'm decently old. So that's 36, 37 years ago. I've played thousands of board games and RPGs and card games and stuff. I'm a designer, like I'm coming at things from a design perspective, but that doesn't mean that, like, yes, I have maybe more knowledge for comparison than the average person, but I think that can also be an impediment to somebody who's maybe a more casual viewer. Like I might be like rattling off games to compare the game to, and people are like, I don't know what the heck any of those games are. Like, what are you talking about? Magic the Gathering, what is that? Or I might, I might be looking at things from more of a design perspective, and somebody's watching a video just like wanted to know if it's fun, like will their significant other like it, will their kid like it? So I think everybody has something to offer, both in their uniqueness, but also in the fact that you're going to be similar to a lot of people. If you're a more casual gamer, Dani, then there's going to be lots of more casual gamers who are watching, and I might be the wrong voice. Steve might be the wrong voice. Maybe you're the exact right voice that they can, or even if you're not the exact right voice, because people can skim YouTube. I know I do when I want to find out about a game. Like you're just one voice in the throng, but your voice might add that little extra something that they're not going to hear anywhere else. So I don't know. What do you all think?
I like to think reviews are never wrong as long as you're telling your truth, right? Whatever your experience was. Like people might disagree with it, but that's because of their own likes and dislikes and alignments, right? All that fun stuff. So coming to that standpoint, I think it helped me approach reviews, because I had a similar apprehension, like, well, why would someone listen to me, right? What value am I bringing to people? But I think you're right, Mike, that we all have our Venn diagrams, right? Like Mike and I, some games we have similar likes, some games we have very different likes, and
absolutely,
that's what makes it interesting, right? It makes it really interesting seeing, like, why do I like this? Why does Mike like this? And do I align to that? Or I mean, with Mike's format, which is a great format, the 5 and 5, like he might talk about something that is a con for him, it might be a pro for me, or the other way around. Is it a pro for him and it's a con for me, or maybe it's inconsequential to me, right? And so, but to me, the review purpose is having that conversation, whether it's external with other people or internally within yourself, to try to determine where you fall along the spectrum of liking that game.
Yeah, I think for me, it's like when I think about reviewing a game, I don't want to just talk about the good, and I don't want to just talk about the bad. But then when I talk about the bad, or the more critical feedback, it's like, I don't know if like the designer will ever come across this video. I don't want to hurt their feelings. Like I get into all this, like, I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings, so I just stick to saying the good. But then it's kind of like this. It's just not, genuine when you just talk about the good, when it comes to a game, because obviously a game's not perfect. There's always good and bad to it. And, for me, as just mostly a board gamer, I don't design games, mostly as a board gamer, I might have reasons that don't resonate with other people. And I guess that's really what it is. It's like, I really don't know if people would agree with me. And I don't like to create any like opportunity for conflict in the comments, or things like that. I guess I like to try to avoid conflict. But I know it is only natural to have positive and negative experiences with board games, but it's being able to project it and have it on in a video that would stay on the web for a while, you know.
I think a big thing is it's not necessarily what you're saying, but how you say it. Meaning that,
True.
like, if I come to a review and say, this is trash, right? As opposed to, like, this didn't work for me because of these reasons, right? Those are two very different ways of approaching the same topic, right? The same aspect.
But Steve, if you say this is trash, you can have that great hot take thumbnail, and you can get all the views. You know, hate watching.
Clicks.
It'll be great. That's right.
Unfortunately, that is true. That does work. So,
but yeah, Dani, on the subject of language and kind of how you present it, as Steve was saying, yeah, I mean, I have kind of my style. I know you've seen some of my reviews, but personally, I think the way, you know, this is not to toot my own horn, because lots of people do this same kind of thing, and I think Steve and Kim do this too. But I think the way that I like doing it is whether this thing is for my taste or not, or whether this thing hit me well or not. But you can always present it as, you know, something that might be positive for somebody else, like Steve said, you know. So, like, oh man, there was a lot of dice rolling in this game. For me, that felt a little random and frustrating at times. But if you like that tension and that excitement of rolling a fistful of dice, this might be a blast for you. You know, like, I don't think you have to caveat every point you make like that. Like, your video doesn't have to be 50 minutes of you, like, kind of hemming and hawing back and forth. But if you give that basic thing, like, for my taste, this wasn't that great, or the way I feel about games, this was so much fun. I'm not sure if you'll like it as much as I did. You know, so I think that at least the community we have, and I think the Co-op Guilds community is similar, and hopefully your community is like this too. I feel like they tend to be pretty nice. I don't tend to get that many comments.
No,
and maybe I've blocked the people who make the really hateful comments, and I don't see them anymore. It's possible. So, but yeah, I think if you present it as like a moment in time, your experience and how it turned out for you, there's really, people are still going to get offended sometimes, but there's really not that much for them to get offended at in that, right? You know, it's like, oh, how dare you feel this way about something, and you say, I don't have to feel that way. How dare you have an opinion? You know, like, I don't know. It seems to diffuse a lot of the drama that might otherwise occur, you know?
For sure. Sue Park has some good comments I want to pull up here real quick. Says, any experience should be shared. An initial play can be labeled as initial impressions rather than a review. Many of us won't go past one play with so many options. And then biases also need to be disclosed at the beginning, and before final conclusions, which I agree with both those for sure. I know Mike and I align on this quite a bit. There's a tendency, especially with demos and prototypes, that when they get posted or shared, they often get labeled as review, and I always try to be very clear that's a preview, because things are going to change. And oftentimes when we get these demos and prototypes, it's only a partial part of the game anyway. So, like, how can you really reflect that appropriately? So I think that's a really good point, and to try and make sure however you are presenting your review, to make sure it's very clear in any potential conflicts or biases and communications. I wanted to bring up one other point that Dani mentioned, which was interesting. Like, what happens if your thoughts change about a game? And I'm gonna put you on the spot, Mike, because I think this is a really good example. Your Tainted Grail, I think, was a great example of this, right? So this was your game of the year. I can't remember what year was that for you? Your game of the year?
Was it like 2020 maybe?
Something like that. I don't remember.
Say.
But like, I remember you were like
up.
super excited about that. It's awesome. I love this game. And then, like, I don't know how many months later, but like 3 months later, whatever it was, 4 months later, you're like, yeah, not so much anymore. and it was interesting to see the feedback on that, because I only saw people like just having fun with it, right? No one was really upset about it. People were really like cool about it. And so, like, I don't think if your opinion changes about a game review, that is necessarily going to be a bad thing, right? I think, because at that time that was true for you, right? You really loved Tainted Grail, and later on it really changed, and being able to come out there and state that, I think, is important. So
yeah, when also I really love it again with the Kings of Ruin stuff, because they like actively changed. So yeah, it's weird these days with, I guess this has always been the case, like with expansions fixing games. You know, that was like the old Fantasy Flight thing, right? Like, they'd have a game that was good except for a few things, and they'd be like, hey, here's an expansion, and now it'd be good, fully good. yeah, and then like 2.0s and 1.5s and like errata kits and all this stuff. Like a game can be fixed. It reminds me more of like video games in a way, like in how computer games are these days. Like, oh, if I review it, is it even going to be the same game? Like somebody who reviews No Man's Sky, that if you all know that one, that sort of survival crafting space video game, that's a completely different game several years later because the studio kept working on it. And those reviews are every review is a moment in time, and I think more so these days than ever before, even for board games, which as a physical medium you would think wouldn't change that much. Things change, things evolve. I think that's fine. But yeah, I mean, honestly, I cheat a little bit to make me not feel guilty and worried about this. And, Dani, you can do the same kind of thing because there are multiple chances for me to state my evolving opinions on a game. So I have the shelf life series, so it's for those who aren't aware, like 6 months. Every month I have a video that looks back to the games I covered 6 months ago. And I'm like, hey, this one actually started being not fun, or I got rid of this one right after I recorded it, or oh, this one's like become one of my favorite games. And then most people also have like top 10 or top 20 lists for the year. That's a very common ththing. So I think, yes, like it is a moment in time. And like you said, Dani, it's preserved for posterity. And,
Yeah.
and you might cringe and be like, oh my God. Like I remember my, even less Tainted Grail, Steve, because that one, yeah, that one was a egregious example. But another one is Heroes of Tennefer. I did like a playthrough and a review of the base game, and it just didn't gel that much with me. And then I did a coverage of the expansion, the Second Curse, and I was like, oh, I don't know, where was I even thinking? This game is awesome. So as long as I think if you build, whether it's a top 10 list or whatever, if you have some way to kind of give the game a reckoning in an organized format so that it's not a one-off thing, or like you said, Dani, just if it's really a major change, like not from like to love, but from hate to love or love to hate, but yeah, do an update video and be like, hey, here's me 20 plays later.
Yeah.
Because Steve, you're right. There's the cult of the new. And it's not just, I really like how you said it, Steve. It's not just chasing views and chasing subscribers, although that is part of it. If we cover a game that's really hot and everyone's talking about, we know that part of that is a selfish goal. Like that's just how the YouTube grind is. But also, you're right, Steve, that it is at its most useful, most beneficial point to a viewer if it's a game that everyone's looking for right then. Yeah, if you post your review of like something because you finished the campaign, and it's like a year later and you can't even buy the game anymore. It's like, yeah, great. Good job, Steve. Where were you 9 months ago, buddy?
Yep.
So yeah, like there's lots of things to balance. So I think, Dani, you have to get your opinion out there. I mean, certainly if you're doing it after like one play and you're like, this game is terrible, maybe watch a play video, make sure you didn't get any major rule wrong. Maybe like label it as a first impression. Maybe don't do a video at all for that one yet.
Yeah. There was a recent discussion about that on another YouTube channel talking about doing a review after only one play. And I have mixed feelings about that. I don't think I would ever make a video called review after one play. I have no problem sharing first impressions, and I would call it that, but I wouldn't call it review personally. So, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. I don't think I'm ever, and this is just me, my life. Dani, I'm sure you're in a similar place. Like, this is not your job, right?
Yeah.
I don't think I will ever give a big negative review for a game that takes like 3 or 4 hours for each session. Because like Steve just said, I don't review anything until I've played it like at least 5 to 10 times. Generally, that's kind of like my standard rule. And if your game sucks and is painful for me to play and it takes hours to play, I'm not going to do a review after playing it once, but I'm also not going to put me through the pain and turmoil of like playing it 4 more times just for some like review. Like somebody else can suffer for that. Somebody who's getting like paid more for their work. So yeah, I don't know. I guess I do fewer negative reviews because of that kind of thing. But again, we're all doing this for fun.
Yeah.
And depending on your review format, you're going to get some constructive criticism in anyway. So I don't feel the need to like chase down games that I've heard are terrible just to pile on and say they are also terrible for me,
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm curious though, like with current events sometimes with games, Do you guys always try to make sure you're aware of all of the controversies around games, or like, because I feel like sometimes when I talk about games, I'm not really aware of what's happening at like in the forums on BGG or any like big controversies. I think there was like one with like, this comes up often with AI, obviously
Mhm.
creating graphics and images for games. And I think there was one recently like for Terraforming Mars, the dice game,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and I really liked the game. And I felt like a little uncomfortable, like, should I be talking about this game with all this discussion around the use of AI imagery? Is that going to, impact the engagement I get on my channel? Like, things like that. It's like thinking about all the factors involved in talking about something that people are really passionate about. Obviously, AI is a very, touchy topic these days. And so I'm curious, how do you guys handle that?
I think I would it really mean how to say this. Uh, if I would do a review of a game if you really want to cover the game, honestly, independent of those topics. Now, it depends on what the controversy could be, because if that's a controversy you are not comfortable, if you're one, you're aware of it, and two, you decide to put a video on it, I'm assuming you're comfortable with that controversy, whatever it is, right? Um, now, if
Well, I
you
guess
were
the
to,
thing is, I wasn't aware of the controversy until
yeah, in that case,
after.
then
And
you have
yeah,
nothing to do, right? You're gonna put a video out,
right.
and you're guaranteed, by the way, to get comments on YouTube, the comment section about that. So you will learn very quickly about the controversy. And worst case scenario, honestly, you can just take down the video, right? If you're like, oh crap, I didn't know about this, and just unlisted or whatever you need to do, right? And that's happened with I had an experience actually. I was covering tournament fishing. That's right.
I was going to say the exact same game, Steve. Go ahead.
Yeah, tournament fishing. I had everything recorded, ready to go, and then I won't get into details, but a big thing blew up around it, and then the video never saw the light of day. So now that's okay. That happens sometimes, unfortunately. So
Yeah, and then I'm in a sort of similar space. So first of all, Dani, I talk on our Discord. I talk on the Co-op Guild's Discord. I'm on like a couple other Discords.
Mhm.
I watch a few friends' YouTube channels. I don't watch anything else on YouTube. Like I don't watch the Dice Tower. I don't watch Shut Up and Sit Down. I don't watch Shelf Set. I don't watch No Punning. Like I don't watch any of the big YouTube channels. I just don't watch board game content on YouTube. Partially that's because I don't want to like muddy my reviews if I see them having a strong take, but also that's not what I like to watch. I want to play board games, So yeah, I'm usually not aware of controversies. I don't really care to dive in. And then I've had responses based on the situation. Tournament fishing, I had a video, I took it down. What was another one? Oh, like somebody went on my video for Anasteer, which is a game from Mythic. And that company has imploded and has been in the process of imploding for a while, which I will say sucks. They had some great people working there. Like I think they mishandled some things, but also I think they were really good in my interactions with them and stuff. But I had somebody like go on the video like a year after, and they're like, "Hey, Mythic's probably never even going to deliver this game. You should delete this video." And I was like, people. If anybody's using me as the only source of information on the game, like the internet does not exist, good for them. You know what I mean? Like, it's not hard to Google the game. You'll get a billion forums talking about how many problems people have with Mythic. So I was like, no, I'm not deleting this video. Like, what are you talking about? All right, like it's ridiculous. And hey, now Anasteer's alive anyway. Now Simon's going to be publishing it in some form apparently. So it's like, it's all an evolving situation. And then I've had other ones where people like brought up the drama, and I'm like, all right. Like it doesn't, I don't know. So there's varying levels of drama. There's varying levels of response to it, I think. It also depends on what's important to you. So like I will say, for example, Dani, the one specific one you asked, I'm not always going to know when a game uses AI art, but I have started telling publishers, if your game uses AI art, I don't want to cover it.
Yeah.
That's just a personal stance.
Yeah.
My wife is an illustrator. That's like her job. Right. So I have a very personal investment in not, in my opinion, feeling like, the actual human craft of art is being destroyed actively. You know what I mean? But that's me. Like, I don't have any problem with anybody else covering the new Terraforming Mars or whatever. It's just my personal stance. And even with that personal stance, I guarantee you, I'm going to say yes to a game, not realizing that it has AI art, and they're not going to tell me, and I'll find out later. And maybe I'll delete the video, maybe not. That has not happened yet. You know what I mean? But again, that's a stance that I've chosen. So you might have issues that you really feel strongly about or are very personally connected about, and that might change your response. But I think it's always going to be a case-by-case basis. And certainly, like Steve said, post the video. You can't.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a good use of your limited free time. You've got at least one kid, just like we do.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's a good use of your free time to like go down a rabbit hole of like Reddit and stuff to find out each game you cover, like whether there's some secret you should be weighing in on. Just post. Worst case, you add an update to like the video description, or you respond to some comments, or you block some people. Whatever the case may be.
And some of the drama, honestly, isn't worth it either, too. So some of it's like, I don't know, the game's delayed and I'm upset, right? So I'm gonna be angry in the comments, right? Whatever, it's fine, go away. So type thing. So Mike says I watch videos because I like the exchange of opinions, especially with Derek, Steve, Kim, Andrew, and their communities. Collectively, we have a ton of information to share. And I agree. That's the whole point of doing this stuff, in my opinion. Because I find it really interesting when, like, if we all agreed on stuff, it would be really boring, right? It'd be super boring. Like, oh, Mike liked the game, I'm buying it, done. Move on, right? I'm going to like it, guaranteed. But the fact that, why does Mike like it? Why does Dani like this? Why does Dani not like this? Am I going to like the same thing? And that conversation is really, really engaging and fun, for sure. So... Snow has a comment here. I've had games where the publisher dropped the ball, but the designer is a good person. Am I supposed to boycott the game or not? Does it even matter? I'm not.
Yeah, that kind of reminds me of Unbroken.
Yep, that's exactly what I thought of.
Yeah.
Really nice guy, designer, really messed up. I mean, but I covered that one. Yeah. But I think I said in my video, I was like, hey, this publisher sucks. The design, I just said it. Like, whatever.
Yeah, for sure.
Because, like Steve said, I think clarity, transparency, it's a big thing for me. I know it's a big thing for Steve. I know it's a big thing for a lot of channels. Like, this designer is my friend. I've heard this guy is a jerk, but I like the game. Just put it out there if you have the thought. Why not? Sure. People can kind of figure it out on their own after that.
Thanks, Dan. Yes, shave the beard there. Stop rotating. That's true. Babyface Steve has not returned in a while. Probably won't either. So, that's a comment to. I shaved my beard off due to raising enough money for Extra Life. So every year we try to raise money for children's hospitals. So. I look very different without a beard. Let's put it that way. So, yes. Okay. So the other thing I want to talk about, since we're on topic of reviews, is I know Mike, you touched on this briefly. Was I personally struggle with always having good reviews or good-ish reviews, because I see this all the time. People like, this person doesn't do a negative review. I don't think they're truthful, essentially, right? They use different words around that, but that's what it comes off as. But ultimately, what it comes down to is we are doing this. None of us are being paid for this, here at least, right? This is not our job, right? And so we're doing this for fun. And so taking time to play a game you're just not enjoying and then putting content out there, that's a lot of time and effort. And so I think a selection bias is always going to be in play because of that reason. But also, I don't know how I feel about that all the time. I'm curious what you guys' thoughts are.
I mean, I've said this in a few like videos and kind of chats over the years. For me, part of my process now, because I get more offers of review copies than I can handle. And yes, that is like a position of privilege that I have that is, not going to be the same for everybody. But I'm playing games with my kids. I'm playing games with my wife. I've got like only every other week now, my main game group. I play with this one group after work. Those are like my only times to game plus solo gaming. So when I'm getting like offers of games, first of all, part of my process is I have to see a rule book or like a draft of the rules first. I will not say yes to a game that I don't expect to mostly enjoy or at least have some fun with. Doesn't mean I'll love the game. It'll be my best game. So already, like Steve said, tons of selection bias. Like, I'm not taking games. I get, and I know Jason Perez, who's on One Stop Co-op Shop with me, he did a video where he talked to like a journalist, and he talked about like people calling themselves sort of journalistic in their game review and how they're not really. And yes, I know that this is pushing me away from sort of that more formal journalist like definition, because I am not covering everything. You know, it's like I'm a movie reviewer. I got to see the crap and I got to see the good stuff. But a movie reviewer loses like 90 minutes to 2.5 hours of their life, you know, to cover like a bad board game is learning the rules, playing it multiple times. If you're going to like be honest with it, filming it, editing it, you know, it's conservatively 10 plus 15 hours of our life on something that is actively painful to us. And again, for me, am I putting my wife through a terrible game? Am I putting my kids through a terrible game? Am I wasting my like 1 week with these friends, like 1 day a week or 1 day every other week to have like a terrible experience? It's a little better because we cover solo and co-op games, you know, so at least then I can just punish myself sometimes. But yeah, I don't know. I do think, again, like I encourage everyone to find the right review format for me. My format, again, makes this not feel as bad because everything I'm presenting is like a pro or con for some people. And I'm usually doing at least some negatives for every game. So I think I've never had a comment for me that you are too positive or too negative. I think the review format just sort of insulates me against that, which is why I like it. You know, part of the reason I like it. But yes, I know it's a common worry, and I think if you're going to discover games you like, You know, have fun with your life. It'll still be useful, even if you just had a video where you're like, "This is the best game I played this month," and that's the only video you did every month. That's still a useful thing. I'm like, "Ooh, I want to check out that awesome game you played this month." You know, like the fact that you're not telling me every bad game you played doesn't matter. It's still valuable content for others. If you want to be valuable to other people, if that's like what your goal is, it certainly is for me. Yeah, so I don't know. I don't think there's some requirement to be negative, but also your format might make it easier for you to be negative.
Dan's calling you too balanced, Mike. You too balanced.
Oh my God! Sorry, Dan. I'll do a hate video just for you next week.
Sue's got an interesting comment here. It says Joel Eddy has the best approach. Creates videos for games he really enjoys. Does a video every few months for several games played that he did not enjoy. So I think that seems fair. That seems fair for sure.
Yeah, I did do that once, and I might do that again. Also, because my backlog is getting too big. Like I did a video with like 6 games, and I was like, "Here's the one I like, and here's 5 I didn't like that much." And I was like, "Just crank through them."
Right. What are your thoughts, Dani, on this? With the.
Well, I mean, I don't particularly create the review videos. I maybe have just 1 or 2 videos on my channel ever where I do reviews, but I think overall it's like I've been sent a few games from publishers, and you know the most recent one was Sean Phillips sent me Scholars of the South Tigris, and it's a game that I really want to like because I've watched so many playthroughs. I'm like, man, this looks really good. It looks really fun, and it's been on my table for the past week. And I was trying to get it together last night actually, and actually put together thoughts for a review because it's got a lot, you know, going on, you know, to talk about. But I couldn't get through a full game. I just couldn't. I don't know why. And I think, you know, it's, as much as I liked what I saw, I think I'm more of like, I might just enjoy watching people play versus me playing it. And so in that case, like, I also feel bad, like as a content creator who got this, like, I guess essentially it's a free game, right? They sent. How do I go about reviewing something that I didn't fully play, and still create content for it, to make it fair that, they sent me this game. I want to make sure I follow through on my end to create that content, right? And if I didn't complete the game, it's not fair to my viewers, like, to give that full review. Should I do it based off of the playthroughs I've watched? I don't know. Like, it's tricky for me to even, go down that route for a game that I didn't fully play. And so, like, that's kind of like my situation with that game. But for other games where I definitely didn't like I played Spirit Island, and I would love to make a video about that, but it's like I didn't really enjoy it at all. But it's like such a common, like, solo gaming, like, recommendation, like, oh, you solo game, you should try Spirit Island. Like, that's like the go-to that people, well, that I've noticed people recommend. And I think it's a good game, but it's definitely not for me. And I think explaining why is probably the most complex part, because some of the reasons why I don't like it might be reasons why people do like it. And I think I like, what you said, Mike, like, just kind of like almost sandwiching it. Like, I've heard about sandwiching criticism with, like, good and then, like, the bad and then the good kind of thing. It's just how you say it. So I think I have to be better at that. And I don't have enough practice doing it to be natural about it. So, and I don't like to have a script. Like maybe some people have it up on the screen, they like to read, and I try my best to always be genuine and just like talk off of my, my mind. That doesn't always work out because I'm just like rambling half the time, like probably like I am now. But yeah, I think when I start getting into reviews, and I do plan on doing that this year, I want to have a really strict structure. And similar to Mike's, and I won't copy you though. Don't worry.
You can do whatever you want. I partially copied somebody else. There's a film reviewer. I don't remember his name right now. This was years ago, but he did like a 5 things about this movie you might want to know. It wasn't quite the same, but I was like, hey, 5 things, and they're kind of like positive or negative, and you don't really know what it is. I was like, that's pretty cool. And then I'd sort of change it up a little bit. Steve, can I respond to what Dani was talking about a little bit?
Of course.
So first, Dani, I might say, yeah, maybe like the Spirit Island one sounds like both a extremely valuable video, because I know, like, I think, didn't Kanji, Derek, not like Spirit Island, Steve?
No, he likes that one.
He does? Okay. There was something, there's somebody like major that we hang out with that didn't like it at all. I can't remember who.
I'm not sure who. I mean, to be honest, my first plays of it, I did not like it at all.
Right, I remember that. Yeah, so I think that kind of video is even more helpful, Dani, and especially if you present it, like in a non-confrontational way, like, hey, all y'all are dumb. This game sucks, like, not that you would, of course, but if you're like, hey, it didn't work for me, why? Here's some reasons why, and don't ask for people to explain why it should work. I mean, they'll try to anyway. They'll try to like mansplain you into liking it because people are dumb on the internet. But I do think that might be, maybe that's the 3rd review you make. Maybe that's the 4th review you make. Because I do think that's enough of a controversial, challenging one that it might be, like, I started off, years ago, I think I started my first few video reviews doing games I liked, except for Hogwarts Battle, the deck builder. That one, I think it was like my 2nd review, and I was like, this game sucks, I hate it. Which, maybe wasn't a great choice, but it is what happened. Until you get like your format settled, until you feel comfortable with the thing. I absolutely, I don't know about you, Steve. I wrote a script out, would print it out. This is like when I was doing the first couple video reviews on One Stop Co-op Shop, and I would have it in front of me, and I wouldn't like read it word for word, but I'd like read what I had written. Then I'd go back and I'd talk into the camera and like, paraphrase it. But I'd read what I had written. And I was a professional actor for years. I'm a teacher. I'm like standing in front of people just kind of talking all the time. And I still needed that crutch until I got used to it.
Okay.
So I would say even as you're finding a format, be flexible and gentle with yourself and let whatever format seems good. And if you need to change your format, say, hey, I'm changing the format, or don't say anything at all. Just change it. Like I surprise everybody. My video format, review format is changing in a major way. I think with next week's video, I will no longer have Mike's face at the beginning of the video. I'm going to have a 30-second overview of what the game is about and how it plays before I get into the 5 points. Because some people were saying they wanted to like understand the game a little better before I talked about it.
Yep.
And, less of this is always a good thing for everybody.
Oh, thank God.
Like Steve might actually watch a video again. Like he's been avoiding the channel. Now he just has to skip the final 30 seconds of final thoughts where my face shows up. It's much more, kind to the aesthetically minded in the audience. but yeah, what do you think, Steve?
Speaking of which, hold on. Oh, much better. I'm just joking. Sorry,
I should go back to the half face mic.
Yeah, half face mic. We need half face mic come back. Yes, what about half face exactly, Kim? So specifically with Spirit Island, Dani. So Spirit Island is one of my all-time favorite games. I love that game. I would absolutely be super interested in your review. Mostly, and not because like it's negative, but just more to hear like what aspects about it you didn't like, because that would make me think about why I even like them to that extent, right? And that what I'm trying to say, not controversy, but that difference of opinions will help me understand my own likes and dislikes, and I enjoy that conversation. So I say, yeah, absolutely put a video out for that, personally. So that's where I'm at. Okay. One thing that I'm curious what you guys fall on this when it comes to reviews is, I have become not a fan of ratings, like numbers.
Yeah.
Like I'm gonna give it a 4.5 out of 5 or a 3 out of 5,
Yeah.
whatever it is. And I say that because there was one particular instance. I was in a server on Discord and people were chatting about things, and this game got posted, and someone's like, "Hey, what did one reviewer think about this game?" I'm not. It's not important who the name was, but they said, "Oh, the viewers rated it a 4.5, or wait, they rated it a 3 out of 5." And the response immediately afterwards was, "That's not high for me. I'm passing on this game." And I'm like, whoa, hold on. You are passing on looking to a game based upon frankly, an arbitrary number from a reviewer, right? And that just didn't set right with me, and I never want that to happen. So I've kind of avoided showing numbers. In fact, when I have my little setup and tear down stuff like that, I intentionally did not put any numbers on there. It's because it's subjective, honestly. If I would do that
Mm-hmm.
again in a couple of days or whatever, it might tweak up and down a little bit. There's be some fluctuations. I don't want people focus on that. I just want to give them a general impression of overall how I felt about it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm on the exact same page. I have not used numbers. In fact, I've even stopped like rating things on BGG. I just don't find it personally useful, and I do think, I don't know, my reviews are already short.
That's true.
If you really need to shrink it down to like Mike gave it a 3, like, okay, that's great. And even, I mean, things are so malleable. Why would a number matter? I don't know, man. Like, like something that I like, you might not like. Something that this part of a game you might love and I might hate. I'm doing my top 100 games right now, and I have like Netrunner on there because I played it a lot as a kid and because I think it's a really cool asymmetric design. What would my rating be? I have no friggin' idea. I haven't even played the game in like 5 years. You know? It's so silly. And the thing is, like, if I was forced to rate something, there are games that I've called out of my collection with a quickness that I would rate a 9. And there are games that are like the most played game in my house that are like a 7. I don't know. It's
yeah.
It all just seems like silliness and trying to quantify things that really shouldn't be quantified. Like it's a arbitrary, for me, unuseful thing that is placed on top of real opinions and real conversations. And I think it's often a conversation killer. Like you said, Steve, like, oh, they got a 3.5. Never going to play that game. Or what, it's got a 6.2 on BGG. Some of my favorite games are like 6s on BGG, like the average rating, because they just hit right for my taste, So I don't know. I'm definitely not a fan of anything ratings related.
What do you think about that,
For me,
Dani? Those ratings.
Yeah. Go ahead, Steve.
Oh yeah, I was going to ask, how do you feel about ratings?
Oh yeah. I personally don't use numbers when I do ratings for myself, but when I look at a game that I'm interested in, I do like to see what the ratings are. And if it's like, below a 5, I immediately go to see why. Like what are people saying that makes it that way? Because it kind of piques my interest when it's so extreme. If it's like a 10 or if it's a 1, like why is it that way? And it kind of like drives me to look more into the game than maybe I would have if it was just a 6 or a 7, because to me, then I'll just check it out if it's just a 6 or a 7. But for me, it's hard for me to actually rate games with numbers because it is just like so subjective. Like you don't really know, like a lot of the ratings for me, there's a context to it. So if I just played a game today and I played another similar game yesterday, like that's going to change my numbers a little bit versus if I played it with a different game the previous day. Like, I don't know. It's just, it would change, like it just as much as, my mood changes every day. So
yeah, no, I mean, that's such a great point. Like, it's also like the people you played with. How'd the game go? Like, oh, I played a game at midnight at the end of a game night. I had to leave. We rushed through it. We got a major rule wrong. This game's a 4. It's like, what?
Right.
Or like you just said, Dani, like, I played Star Realms today and I played Dominion yesterday. This game's derivative. But, if it was like a week later, I'm like, I played Star Realms. Hey, so much fun. Oh man, I love this deck building thing. I don't know.
So the funny thing is though, like back in the day, working with the 5 and 5 format there, the top 5 things, I actually sat down and worked out a system to take the pros and cons of the top 5 format and convert that into an overall rating. So I was like trying to make this thing work. I'm like, is this gonna work? And as I was working through this, I'm like, well, this doesn't really work the way I intended, because yes, it gives me an overall number based upon these, but it it takes away from the fact that we're looking at each individual top five element, right? And in the end, I never did it, right? I just left it on the cutting room floor and never came back to it. So, but yeah, it was
Well,
interesting.
and it's funny. It's funny not to. I hate Amazon right now. Amazon is a cesspool. But there's like some random dude. I think I know who it is. Whatever. Forget this. They've been like stealing all my 5 and 5 reviews and transcribing them and putting them up as Amazon reviews for the games.
Oh,
because the internet has time for this crap.
okay.
And they'll give it a rating out of 5 stars. I'm like, oh yeah, okay, great. So that's a 3-star. You just condensed everything I just said to 3 stars. Good for you, idiot. So yeah, it's funny, Steve. You did it in an honorable way and then gave up the effort. This person just keeps on going with their trash trolling.
Yeah, something doesn't work. So, but yeah, I'm seeing comments here, like Mike mentioned here as well. It's a setup time, play time, insert, quality, components, all that stuff. We want to see from reviews, things I can't see in a playthrough, if it makes sense to you guys. Yeah, so like hearing about these out, because that's a good point. Like playthroughs help a lot, but there's also things outside of playthroughs that are tough to communicate, right? And so having additional content will help with that. Dan says he gave you a review of Amazon 5 stars. There you go. Yeah. I think those are the topics I wanted to cover, the bias and stuff. Dani, do you have any other review topics you want to bring up?
No, I would be curious though, like as you know, I know Mike, you said you don't really watch board game videos, but have you guys come across content that has changed your mind about a game so drastically that you had to play it again to see if it was true?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say if what you're asking is like I played a game, didn't like it,
Yeah.
and then I watched a video and I was like, whoa,
Exactly.
no, I don't think that's ever happened.
Okay.
Because like, I don't know. I guess maybe like once I realized I'd gotten a rule wrong and I went back and played with the correct rules. Sure. That would be like the one case. But I don't think I've ever been like, oh man, this game sucks. And then the dice tower's like, this game's great. And I'm like, hey, this game's great. Like I don't think that's ever happened. How about you, Steve?
I think I'm in the same boat where, like, if I really like something trashed on it, or I didn't like it, someone really loved it. But I think what has helped me is understand why they liked it and why others might like it and why maybe I don't align to that for whatever reason, right? So trying to understand my own internal mindset and where I fall on things, which helps a lot because that's always been my concern with doing reviews is I enjoy sharing. I enjoy trying to help is what comes down to it. If I can put something out there and it's useful to one person, I'm happy, right? Obviously more than that, even better, but whatever. Like that's my goal. And seeing these other contrary views, all it does for me is help me internalize, analyze my own thoughts, and that helps me hopefully better communicate and isolate why I like the game. Because sometimes this comes up with me where I'll play something and it won't feel quite right, and it's hard for me to pinpoint. And seeing these different opinions helps me isolate that. And now I still have that issue sometimes. Like the one game that I'm really struggling with right now is not that I dislike it, I like it. Is that Marvel game, Fantasy Flight.
Champions?
Dagger. Marvel
Dagger.
Yes, like I feel like there's a really good game in it, but there's something that is just not sitting with me. And I can't quite isolate what that is. And I want to figure that out because I feel like a small tweak will like, boom, there it is. It's good now, right? Like, I'm not saying it's a bad game necessarily or a great game or anything like that. I'm just saying that there's something that isn't quite there for me. And so I don't know. I'm always in that.
I know what
it
is for me, but I'll let you figure it out for you, Steve.
Mike said, I watched playthroughs of Burn Cycle and didn't want it. Then I came across one where it all clicked. Bought it, tried it, and now it's my top 5. That's interesting. Yeah. So.
Hey, Mike, that's the next game on my table. I was just reviewing the rules last night. Burn Cycle is great. Or I like it. I know Steve doesn't like it as much. Steve and I have differences of opinion when it comes to stealth games.
We are very interesting because we have like a very strong Venn diagram, and it's nice now that because because we've had these discussions where I can kind of come to Mike and be like, "Hey, Mike, I think you should look into this game. This is like in your alley." And this one's like, "You know what, Mike? I really like this game, but I don't think it's for you." And like that understanding is really, really awesome to have.
Yes. So. Yeah, because it is interesting. Like both of us love modular games where you can mix and match things. But I don't like Marvel United that much, and you don't like Arkham as much as I like Arkham, you know, or well, that's not a good example. Or like Sentinels. You don't like Sentinels as much as I like Sentinels. And we both really love stealth video games and board games, but I don't like which one is your fave? What's the World War II one?
V Sabotage?
Yeah, like I like it, but I don't love V Sabotage, and you didn't like Burn Cycle Stealth that much, and that's my number one. Like it's weird, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. But cool. Well, looks like chat in the Discord with Mike here about Burn Cycle. He's gonna try to sell me on it now. I welcome it, Mike. Let's have that chat. So, cool. Well, I think that's probably gonna wrap up this discussion. So, hey, I want to thank you, Dani and Mike, for taking time out of your schedule to join on this chat. I thought it was a really fun discussion. So,
yeah, great. Thank you for having me again, and great to talk to you with too, Mike.
Yeah, nice to meet you, Dani, and Steve. Thanks for inviting me back. It's been too long. It's good.
Always good to have you both on. So, Dani, where can people find you?
Sure. Yeah. So mainly on YouTube. I like to post in the community, like post stuff. And then obviously my videos, I try to post a video once a week. And I do a live stream maybe once every few months. But yeah, I mainly focus on solo board games, sometimes the occasional party game that I play with my friends. But yeah, hope to see some of you guys there. And I'll be, I'll try to be more active in Steve's Discord. I know One Stop Co-op Shop also has a Discord, so that I'm a part of. So definitely looking forward to having more conversations with both of you and everyone in the chat, hopefully.
And I have a link to your YouTube in the description if people want to find you there. So,
great.
And then Mike, where can people find you?
Yeah, so the main thing is the One Stop Co-op Shop YouTube channel. We do solo and cooperative playthroughs and reviews. And then we have the One Stop Co-op Shop podcast, which is reviews and design discussions and sometimes interviews. That's pretty. Oh, and we have a Discord. Sorry, but that's pretty much it. I'm not really on any of the other socials for my sanity.
Oh, sorry. I was going to wrap it up, but Tiny's got a really good comment here. I want to engage real fast before we end it up. Have y'all had bad reviews or production issues cause you to not even try a game? With all the bad talk of Monster Hunter World, maybe I should not have tried it, but it's now my and my wife's top game.
So for me, basically 99% of the time, I do not include production stuff in my top 5 or like artwork or those kind of things. And also, I mean, I've talked about this before, but I play prototypes so often, including my own janky prototypes that I'm designing. And I'm a war gamer from way back, so I'm like used to like ashy, tokens on like a paper map with a giant hole in the middle. So I don't care about I care less about components than my average viewer probably. So all I do is I put in the video description, I'm like components, and I mention anything major. So now usually I won't avoid a game for components. I might not keep it if it's like super ugly, because then sometimes my my family won't play it as much. Although I'm trying to get them on the same page as me. Like we just played After the Virus, which is like famously like horror bobblehead art, And my son was like, "This looks dumb," and I was like, "Yeah, but let's play it." And he's like, "Oh, it's pretty fun." So now we're playing, and he doesn't even notice the art. It's like I don't notice the art because who cares about the art, But I know not everyone can blind themselves to that.
Yeah, I will try every game, and I say that with a small caveat. There's some really old games that I don't want to get into here, but I'll say I'll try every game, and I say that because I've been surprised more than once, right? So independent of what I've heard from reviews or production and stuff like that, and finding those little gems that worked for me, and maybe not the whole game worked, but like maybe elements of it worked, and that just inspires me to seek out other games that have that element or something like that. So yeah, I definitely still try out games regardless of what I've heard or seen. What about you, Dani?
No, I haven't really had too much experience with bad production or things like that. I mean, bad production on my part with PNPs, but other than that, yeah, I can't speak too much to this.
Oh, that's great, Dan. This looks dumb.
Yeah,
play it. Spoken like a true dad.
That is a dad comment. So yeah, just try it. Try once. Danny wants to play this game. Come on.
Just one time. It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah, Danny, do you have only the 3-year-old, or do you have other?
Yeah, the
Okay,
3-year-old and 2 cats if you count them.
So are they, are they playing? Are they playing with you yet? The cats?
Yeah.
3-year-old.
Yep. Dice games. He helps me roll the dice.
There
He
you
helps
go.
us on it. And I kind of like make like toddler rules. I posted one recently for spots, so I just had him roll dice and just match, the cards with the dice, like things like that. So I definitely try to involve him.
Nice.
Might have him on a video or two reviewing some more kid-oriented games. So
That's
we'll
awesome.
see. Yeah.
Cool.
I love that.
Awesome. Well, thank you to both for joining, and thanks everyone in the chat for hanging out with us. And we'll see you guys next time. Bye,
Bye.
everyone.